Welcome to Threads of Sustainability. I'm your host, Bridget O'Flaherty. With climate change and environmental impacts becoming a common narrative in our daily lives, it seems like a great time to explore what sustainability looks like in the quilting, fiber, and textile world. We'll hear from creatives, makers, manufacturers, and producers from all over the world to discover what sustainability looks like to them and find out how they're contributing to a sustainable future. We will celebrate positive steps people are taking, no matter how small. Whether you're a hobbyist or a pro, you can bring sustainability into your practice. Join me as we take a deep dive into the environmental, social, and economic impacts with Threads of Sustainability. One of the interesting things that I find about doing these talks and being able to have conversations with people is the different lenses that sustainability is viewed through. Today, we're going to be talking with somebody who is an activist, I would say, and through their art expresses concern for the environment and tries to be a voice and be an advocate for endangered species. Not an uncommon theme, but a really important one. And I think that we need to take a look at activists in a way and support those activists to be able to spread that message and spread the knowledge that they are trying to convey. It's a really important piece of the whole puzzle of sustainability, and I think that it's really worthwhile. I hope you enjoy today's talk. Welcome to Threads of Sustainability. I am talking with Janine Heschl, and we're talking to each other, and you're in Vienna. I am wanting to talk to you about some of the work that you do. You do thread painting like me, but not like me. It's so different from what I do, but technically it's the same stuff. And I have been following you, have been a huge fan for a long time, and specifically, we were talking about endangered species and some of the stuff around that. But one of the questions I wanted to talk to you about in your work, and I'm going to get to the how you came to doing it and why and all that stuff. One of the big whys that I want to know about is why you are driven to do your subject matter, which is almost always endangered species, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about that.
It's always been animals. My subject matter has always been animals because it's the most fascinating thing for me that Mother Earth provides us with. The diversity of patterns, of colors, of different shapes and sizes. The more I got involved in researching my subjects, the more I read about the IUCN list, for example, of animals going extinct or the numbers drastically reducing due to logging or wildlife crimes. And it's that what probably impacted me most to focus on endangered species, because I didn't know about these numbers, for example, for some animals. I assumed that a lot of people actually don't know. I wanted to transport that through as a message with the portraits I create. So I thought when I create a portrait, for example, of a lion, I can then educate people about the decline of the number of lions in Africa. Or I can raise awareness of lions that are bred in captivity to be sold off to people who like to shoot lions, this kind of thing. Almost, which is really a sad fact, but almost every species that I research, there is some sort of trouble they're in, or they experience a certain plight that we can't even, that we didn't even know about, like the pangolin, for example. The pangolin, that it just got into the headlines due to the COVID, because it's been sort of associated with the virus.
Oh, I didn't realize
that. It's been transferred. Yeah, it's been transferred on a wildlife market because they are sold in Chinese markets, but they're actually from Africa. They were bearing this kind of virus. And it's sort of, it's very simple for one virus to transfer from a wild animal to a human, or to another animal and then to a human.
Right.
So people sort of knew about pangolins because not only because of their scales that are very sought after and that they're being hunted for, but also because of the epidemic breakout.
And so what's happening with those numbers now with the pangolin?
Well, the pangolin sort of is experiencing some kind of, I don't know how to put that in English, but it's like a little hype. people are finding them so cute and they feel so sorry for them because they're such peaceful animals. If you look at one, they could never hurt anyone, and then they're being hunted and killed for their scales. And so they've got now lots of conservation groups that are helping, that are raising funds. And that's the kind of thing that it works for the pangolins now, because there's people who actually give money to organize groups and raise awareness. So that's in their favor.
Yeah, I saw your pangolin piece that you did. It was really sweet.
Yeah, they are so cute. You look at them and they're like tiny, like hedgehogs.
Yeah,
they look to me like tiny little hedgehogs, and I'd feel so sorry for them if anybody would hurt them. But
when they're taking the hit now for the blame on the coronavirus, so
that too,
less desirable in some ways. Yeah. So obviously the environment is incredibly important to you, and animals is your central focus. Yeah. But that all kind of stems out of climate crisis, right? And we talked a little bit about the idea of artists being really compelled to try and do something that I feel like we're very empathetic and kind of hit hard by the emotional context of climate crisis. There's that eco overwhelm that happens, and the fight for figuring out how to, as an individual, make a change to this giant concept. Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about that, and about how that has really driven some of the work that you're doing as well.
It's something that is always on my mind. And it's, especially when you have children, you think about the world that you leave behind for your children, even small children, even more so than when grown up already. Yeah. But it's something that is constantly on your mind, where you go, right, what, if the climate's going to change, and if they predict that in 10 years time, it's going to be even hotter in Siberia and glaciers are going to melt, what does that mean for our children? What does that mean for animals? Will there be polar bears left in 20, 50 years? What will the world look like in 50 years? Yeah. And for us, we say, right, in 50 years, I'm probably not gonna be here, or I'm not gonna be aware of what's happening if I'm still here. Right. But my children are, and my grandchildren will be. That's something I don't consciously put it into my work as a subject. Mm-hmm. I do only recently. I've started to explore how nature works, and how we can always count on its resilience, because it will, in the end, it's my favorite thing to say. In the end, nature wins. Yeah. She always will win, no matter what the humans will do. If we blow each other up, it will, in the end, it will all be green again. Yeah. That's my strongest belief. And that's something that I'm incorporating into like my moss pieces that I've been recently doing, not so much with the animals. I'm not putting it into context as much with animals. Yes, there is climate change that does affect the numbers of animals, but I'm not putting that in my work as such.
I think that's really true, that sustainability is kind of built on the ideas that we're using our resources today in ethical and careful ways so that they're preserved for future use, right? For those future generations. That's what sustainability is all about, is what those future generations are going to receive from us. Yeah, it's interesting to look at that and think about that. I definitely think about that with my own kids, and with everything that I do. It's like, okay, well, what's this going to do in the future? Where is this going to go? How is this going to end up paying back into the future? Is it going to be positive or negative?
Exactly.
Tell me how you got started doing thread painting and doing textile work.
I started when I was a stay-at-home mom with my youngest son. He was just a baby. I felt that I needed to be productive. I come from a very productive and sort of performance-driven family. It's always been something that I've been growing up with. Like, you gotta be productive. You gotta do something. You can't just sit around and daydream. It's not the thing to do.
I always daydream.
I know. That's what I always did. That's why I heard that probably lots and lots of times during my childhood. And then I had my own kid, and then these little voices started going, oh, you got to do something, man. You can't just sit at home and be a mom. That's just not on. So I thought, right, I'll buy myself a sewing machine. And then I started following tons and tons of tutorials of making little pouches and pillows. And then I thought, right, it's boring. And I started making kids' clothes and made my kids wear that too, which is awful. I will, I'll have to apologize lots and lots of times before they sort of forgive me when they see the photos of their childhood.
Of their clothing when they're kids.
They were terrible. I have no talent whatsoever in for sewing in a straight line. That's why I got very, very frustrated with the sewing machine. Until I figured out, right, I have a choice now. I can either throw the sewing machine out the window or I can make it work for me.
Right.
I sort of explored other ways of using the sewing machine, and I came across a couple of artists that were doing the free motion sewing, when no feed dogs and you're in charge of where the thread goes and it doesn't have to be in a straight line, which was the absolute bargain for me. So yeah. I explored and I was doing, raw applique and this kind of stuff, drawing little pictures with fabric. And then I thought, right, I get bored easily, very, very soon with stuff. And then I thought, right, what happens if I don't use fabric, but thread and fill the areas with thread rather than just fabric? It sort of was very two-dimensional. And then I started looking at objects in a different way and decided, wow, you can actually create depth with shadows and, just using not just one color, but maybe 3 tones of red to give it more depth. And so I was sort of teaching myself the color theory.
Yeah. So you don't have an art background. You didn't go to school for
not
art.
At all.
No.
No.
Me neither. Interesting.
Yeah, you don't need an art degree apparently to become an artist.
No,
you're not taken seriously in the beginning.
Yeah.
But you got to show them that you are actually an artist.
Yeah.
So, self-taught. I took it a step further and further and further, and I'm very into challenging myself. I like to leave the comfort zone a lot because I know it will take me places. It won't take me anywhere if I keep doing what I'm comfortable with,
Right.
So I kept challenging.
So tell me what kind of sewing machine you have.
Oh, I started with a regular Brother sewing machine, like the household sort of, nothing fancy. 4 years ago, I bought myself a vintage Singer free, like it's a flat embroidery machine, they call it. It's from the 1960s. Nice. It's motorized now, and it's one that doesn't have any sewing feet, and it's got no feed dogs either.
Okay.
And it's one where you can regulate the width of the stitching. You can stitch in zigzag.
The knee press that you can use. Okay. Yeah.
That's right.
Those. Yeah.
Which I don't use because I sew in a straight line always.
Right.
But you can use a zigzag really fast. She goes 1,200 stitches a minute.
Wow.
And that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that is awesome. And so you just started developing into the detail that you've got. And tell me a little bit about the process. So you use a hoop to do your thread painting?
I always use a hoop.
Yeah. And what do you stitch on?
I use calico.
Oh, okay.
You have a different name in North America for it. I think a lot of people name it muslin.
Okay.
But it's a bit thicker. It's like a heavy muslin. We call it, translated over here in Austria, it would be a fabric from nettles. So it's plant-based.
Okay, so it's not a cotton necessarily.
It looks like a cotton and it's woven like cotton, but it's called nettle fabric. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
So it's probably a good mix.
Yeah.
And I love it because it's sturdy and I can stretch it over the canvas because I don't have, I don't make quilts as such. There's there is 3 layers if you use the stabilizer in the back, but I stretch my fabric over a canvas because obviously, those who know free motion sewing, you can create lots and lots of puckering.
Yeah.
And I can stretch that out. And with calico, you really have that way to go to stretch it. It won't rip ever.
We talked a little bit about your subject matter, and you were, in the last couple of years, you decided you were going to do a chimp for an auction. And
Yeah.
I really, this is such an amazing story, and I'm really excited for you to share it with us. So tell me about your chimp.
I was asked in 2018 to create a chimp for the primatologist, Dr. Jane Goodall. She has always been my inspiration. I've seen her now live 4 times, and I know her stories, and she's so sweet. She's got these jokes that she always tells. And every time I hear it, I was like, I know them already, but they still make me laugh and they still inspire me. And her words are just pure healing. And when the Jane Goodall Institute Austria asked me to create a portrait for her, so we could auction it to raise funds for her lifetime project, which is the Jane Goodall Institute, I was just honored. And I thought, wow, art can go so far if you believe in it and if you let it. It's not just, oh, I make a thread painting and I sell it and somebody hangs it on their wall. It can actually transport so much more. It can raise funds and it can raise awareness, and it can sort of give you an opportunity of a lifetime to meet your all-time hero, and be on stage with Dr. Jane Goodall. That's something I'd never thought about when I decided to become an artist, how far it can go. And I feel really blessed, to be honest. It's an amazing feeling.
So tell me a little bit about the actual chimp that you did as your piece.
I've done 2 portraits now, because I've been asked twice to create a portrait for her. One she hasn't received due to Corona, was canceled. Still waiting for her to be, hopefully this year, that she will be able to receive it. But the one I created in 2018 was actually the chimp called Wunda. Okay. It was a rescued chimp that she became very famous. If you look it up on YouTube, if you type like Jane Goodall and Wunda, it's actually spelled Wounda, Wounda. That video it touches your heart and you'll never forget watching it. It's a chimp that they released on an island back into the wild. It was a chimp that they actually thought would never survive. She was shot. Her mom was shot and she had a bullet also near her chest. It made her survive, and they actually had her go into their sanctuary. They let her go. They opened the cage and she hopped on that cage, and she never met Jane Goodall before. But she was there on the day of her release, and she turns around and she hugs her. Oh. Wunda gives her the biggest hug, and it was so, I get goosebumps now just talking about this video.
I'm getting goosebumps.
It is so beautiful. Like, I cry every time I see that video. I cry.
I'll put a link to that into the show. Yeah.
Please do, because it's so touching, and it just shows the love that these two share with each other. Yeah, I was asked to portray Wunda, and I did. I got a reference photo from the Jane Goodall Institute. They allowed me to use it, and I was able to do so. And for the second portrait, I was asked to choose a portrait from a chimp from Gombe. And Gombe is the place where Jane Goodall went 62 years ago now, and her journey started there.
Yeah.
So it was very specific.
Amazing. And I can't wait to see that one. That one's going to be
awesome. You love it.
Sure. Yeah. The
Be prepared to cry.
One of the things that I find fascinating about your work is the detail you get in the eyes. And you are able to somehow translate and convey emotion through thread stitching eyes. It's just, I find it fascinating and really... tell me a little bit about what draws you to the eyes, because that seems like something you focus on a lot.
I do. And in the beginning, I didn't really focus on the eye, but it took the longest time to stitch. Yeah. So when I have an eye that is like 3 centimeters by 2 centimeters, I spend 2 hours on one eye. Wow. I'm probably faster now, but back then it took me 2.5 hours to get every single detail in there. And I do try and cram every detail in there. That's why my portraits always turn out, or not always, but usually turn out quite big, like 60 by 80 centimeters, that I can have eyes that are big enough so I can add all the details in there that I want to. Yeah.
It's much harder to do things small, really, isn't it?
It is. A lot of people go, oh, but if you do small, you're a lot like so much faster. And it's like, no, you're not, because you still want to do all the details, and you just sit there and then you do single tiny little stitches.
Yeah.
You not as much, but it takes a long time as well to get those in that you can see.
Yeah.
So no, working on a larger scale is a lot nicer. And then I've decided to just create single eyes.
Yeah.
Just a lioness eye. And I've done a series of wild cats or big cats. And I really, really enjoyed creating eyes because they're so meaningful, and they speak to people on a different level. It sounds very, very
No, it's not. No,
but they do.
There's an emotional connection to eyes, right? And it makes you, I think it feels like they're looking into your soul. Like they're somehow reflecting you back into them. And I find it really, I think you're right. They're powerful. They're really powerful.
That's the message I try to get across, for people to look at them and to maybe also feel a little bit uncomfortable being stared at, because it's something that humans don't really appreciate, being stared at. But
sure.
I want to raise this empathy. When you care for something, you feel empathy for something, you will automatically try and protect it. If you haven't got a connection to something, you won't feel that it's an effort or it's worth it to fight for something if you don't feel for it.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the thing I try to express or to translate is the look maybe in the eye of a lion that pleads with you. Is like, help me get stuff done.
And you definitely convey that really, really well. And I feel like I'm being judged a little bit by the eyes.
I used to have an otter and I work out in my studio as well. Like I do my workouts, my daily ones, and I had this otter portrait, and he was a very judgmental otter. I thought, I'm already using my heavier weights here. What are you looking at?
You're judging me. Quit judging.
Yeah, he was very judgmental. He's now found a new home to be judgmental.
Tell me about the actual event of presenting Wunda to Jane Goodall. Tell me about that.
Oh, that was very emotional. That was a very emotional evening because I didn't know half the things that would be happening that evening when I arrived in this venue. So I walked into this huge hall that held about 1,500 people. The first thing I saw was this massive photograph on a huge screen of my portrait that they just put on like a big sort of screen and projected it onto the wall. I can't even explain what that did to me. I was just so gobsmacked. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. And it stayed up there the whole night.
Right.
Like, I felt really small. My parents were there and my friends came to witness all of that. And then, I was nervous as it was. And then I took my portrait and I went to the director of the Jane Goodall Institute and I said, right, here's your portrait. And it's all framed and wrapped and there's a pen because I'm sure she's going to sign the portrait as well. I've thought of everything. And then she looked at me. She's like, why are you giving that to me? And I'm like, well, I thought, you might want to give it to her then. And she's like, no, you go up on stage and you give it to her.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh. I didn't dress the part. I was wearing my jeans. I was like, oh no, you can't make me do that. And she's like, oh yeah, you made it. So you go up there and you give it to her.
Oh my God.
Oh, and luckily my husband was there. So he was like holding my hand throughout the whole time. And then when it was my turn, I tried not to fall up the stairs to the stage. I was shaking. I presented that to her. And then she said the most beautiful thing about this portrait, because in her lectures, she always talks about how humans and animals and plants, we're all interconnected and we're like a big woven tapestry. Mm-hmm. We all depend on each other and we're all good for each other and in the ideal world. And then she saw the thread of my portrait and she said, oh, and like in this portrait, every thread goes with one another to create one beautiful picture. And I thought, oh, that is such a beautiful metaphor. Then we had the auction run, and a lovely man bought this for his office because he dedicated an entire office room to Jane Goodall. He obviously was a big fan.
No kidding.
And then, when he got on stage, she passed on the portrait to him, and she turned around to me and hugged me. And I was standing there going, oh my God, Jane Goodall is hugging me. I was like, what to do? Can I hug her back? She's like a 80 plus woman back then. I was like, oh, I need to hug her back. And I felt at the same time, I felt uncomfortable and joyous. Lots and lots of emotions running through me that night. Yeah.
I bet. What a trip to meet somebody like that, with that kind of, I don't know, she's got like an ethereal energy to her almost. She's this big entity. She's
amazing. She is an entity. Yeah.
Yeah. What a beautiful
beautiful soul that walks this earth. And I hope for a longer time than we can hope for.
Yeah. So talk to me about some of your next projects. You've been doing some more unusual things on some of your social media, showing us some of your more unusual, the mosses and some pink work that you've been doing as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
I needed a break from animals. I didn't think I'd actually come to this point where I need a break from animals. But like every artist, once in a while I wouldn't say bored with the work, but I ran out of inspiration.
Sure.
And I needed something different. I needed change. That's probably simple as that. I needed something different. And I love moss. I've always loved moss. When I walk past moss, I need to put my fingers in it and I need to touch it. And I love the texture.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. And it's amazing to touch. And I read up on moss, and they used it like in World War II to put on wounds. Okay. So they would heal faster. So they've given it some kind of power as well in the healing of the humans. And that was, again, something where I thought nature is so amazing. It's not, it doesn't give us, it gives us lots of beauty, and it gives us lots of enjoyment, but also it heals us, and in so many different ways.
Yeah.
So moss was something that I wanted to create and I wanted to explore. So I thought, right, what can I do with moss? And I thought of different shapes and different, of paw prints and lots of ideas. And then I thought, right, the one thing that we need at the moment is hope. So that was one of my first words to stitch, was hope. And then I thought, right, but at the moment, I'm not feeling any of the hope. What I feel is more of a fuck.
Yeah.
This world is fucked, right?
Yeah.
Where we're going is wrong. And it's what we're doing is crap. And I feel helpless. And I feel we're not going to make it. So the opposite of hope was fuck. Yeah. So I did that.
That definitely it felt like those moments as well, when you just there are certain things that you walk past. Like I'm walking in nature, I'm out in this beautiful hike, and then I see a bunch of garbage we have a coffee place here called Tim Hortons, and so you see a Tim Hortons cup in the middle of a trail that you're walking on. It's like, fuck, who's doing that? Like,
why?
And who's picking that up? Like, why did you drop it there? And who do you think is picking it up? I'm going to pick it up, but what the fuck? Why? Mm-hmm. And
I feel you.
Driving down the road and you're seeing plastic cotton trees, and it's kind of the exasperation of the ignorance of what we're doing to the planet.
Yes.
I get it. I totally get it.
That was the frustration. That is the frustration that I feel. It's the same with people who use the poop bags to pick up the poop and then throw the poop bag into the woods. Like, you might as well just leave the poop to disintegrate by itself, but now it can't because it's wrapped in plastic.
Right. Oh,
it's that kind of frustration I felt. And that was probably part of me exploring different things, different things in terms of moss, but also in different colors. So I needed color. And that was also another part of changing subjects. I needed bright colors. And one of the bright colors was green. Another bright color that I thought of was the pink. And that's why the pink sort of took over a little bit for a while. It did me good in creating bold colors, and it sort of worked for me creating that in moss and experimenting. Experimenting with color. I've started sort of experimenting with sculptural work.
Cool. So doing more three-dimensional stuff.
Three-dimensional. I've got a cigarette bud where I thought, right, I want to do maybe some more on that, and a paint a tube, and I had created a moss on a water-soluble fabric, a sort of stabilizer. So the moss was sort of 3D free-flowing, and it came out of the tube. That sort of instant happiness, I called it. When you need instant happiness, you take your tube and you press out a bit of moss, and then you enjoy your nature, because I think that's what humanity is going towards too. We don't take the time to go and walk in the woods. No, we need a quick fix, and buy some tube and some cream and put it on our hands, and it feels like moss. That was sort of the idea behind that.
Yeah, no, I like that.
But I was going anywhere, and I had no plan, and I decided to allow myself this year to fully experiment with whatever comes into my head. And that's cigarette butts, and it's paint tubes, and it's moss, and it's words. And I'm sort of now going back to the animals, because I've started like a moth 2 days ago.
Nice.
I've never stitched wings. I've never fully stitched wings.
You did the bees.
I did.
Bees were amazing. Tell me about the bees.
It was a big fat bumblebee. And I love bumblebees so much because they're just cute little fluffy bums.
They are.
But the wings on that one, I created out of organza fabric.
Okay.
So I didn't stitch them. So they're free. They're 3D wings.
Okay.
So with the moth, it's different because I will stitch it. But the good thing is that moths seem to have very hairy wings. And so that's going to work for me with thread.
Yeah, it lends itself really well to the thread painting. So tell me a little bit about the materials that you use. We've talked about the fabric, but tell me about the thread that you use.
People always ask me what brand thread do you use? And I always give them the same answers. Like, I don't go by brand, I go by color.
I'm in the same boat.
Especially when you work in realism or in photorealism, you need to grab whatever shade you can get. I can't look for certain brands that I use. I have now just recently signed up for the Aurifil Artisan program, and I've been accepted to that. And what I really like about that is that you get a challenge set every month. Like this month, it was, here's your welcoming pack. There's 12 spools of thread. Use them to create whatever you like. And I had lots of pinks and lots of one or two browns. And that inspired me to create that elephant hawk moth, because it's pink and brown. It's exactly those colors.
Nice.
And I had held them sort of in my hand, and I thought, oh, that reminds me of something. And then I figured, oh, it's that moth, because they're local to us and we get them here.
Nice.
And
beautiful.
that was love. That was nice. I like the challenge. What draws me to Aurifil is that it's 100% cotton. So there's no plastic, I think, in there.
No.
They have several selections of thread. The ones I use is the Mako thread, and I think it's 100% cotton. But what I like about them is that they support Earth League International. Okay. They have color builders, and they had a whole series of 3 different kinds of browns, for example, and that was the color builder for the pangolin, sort of endangered species. So they had the Sumatran elephant, the pangolin, the jaguar. I hope I'm not saying anything wrong here, but no. That was the first time I got to know Aurifil, because I found out that they are supporting a cause that I support. They're working for Earth League International.
So tell me about Earth League International.
Earth League International was founded by Andrea Crosta, who is, if you've ever seen the movie The Ivory Game, it was a huge documentary a couple of years ago about the illegal trade of ivory. Okay. And he works undercover, and he believes that wildlife crimes can only be solved by using intelligence, sort of crime intelligence. He's been working closely with FBI agents and CIA agents undercover, using journalists, infiltrating the system to really get to those guys who pull the threads. And this is what his aim is, to stop trafficking by using intelligence.
Sure.
What people use to arrest, the bad guys,
Okay.
to say it that way. He founded Earth League International.
Okay.
And he's Italian and Orifil is Italian. And that's how these two sort of work together.
Okay.
That's how I found out about Earth League International and the color builders, and that Orifil supports them. And it spoke to me because it's the exact same mission that I have. Yeah. It's not their only mission.
The color builders are just like a set of threads that are based on.
Yeah. They're like tiny boxes.
Okay.
Like a little kit, yeah. And you can use it, and it's like 3 different shades of a color.
The plastic bank is really an interesting thing, and I want to talk to Orifil. So hopefully I'll be able to talk to Orifil more and get some more of the details of what they do. So the plastic bank is another social program that they support where plastic is used as currency. So it keeps it out of the oceans, it keeps it out of landfills, and they're able to trade it in and use it as currency. So Orifil supports funding that particular program. And I'm not sure of the actual location of where that takes place. I think there's different locations where it takes place, but that's the goal behind it, is to encourage people to, instead of throwing plastics into the ocean or in the streets, it's suddenly got a value to it. And they can then trade it in for other goods that are useful.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a good mission. Yeah.
I do love that they are supporting these other programs. I think they're really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you will probably find that they are on their way of becoming more sustainable.
Yeah.
A lot of companies do, and a lot of like Mettler thread or Gütermann. I don't think Gütermann produces anymore, but Mettler does anyway. And Ammann.
Gütermann and Mettler both have the recycled content threads.
Exactly, yeah. And I'm pretty sure other thread companies will follow.
I think they have to. The industries, it's becoming painfully obvious that this industry is impacting the environment negatively, and that the production of these types of things are having an environmental impact. If they don't see that, then they're just ignoring it. So I think the more we're seeing things like the Paris Agreement and the demands on countries globally, it's going to be putting pressure on companies to start making changes and acting. And I think also as individuals, the more we start to demand it, the more these companies are going to start paying attention and actually going, oh, yeah, it's important to the people who are buying our stuff. We have to start doing this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fully agree with you on there.
Yeah.
We have a lot of work ahead of us. Lots of companies, actually, not just us as the single human, but the companies. And most of them are just greenwashing now. But I hope that they actually do take proper steps and help us create.
I think the more we start to understand what greenwashing is, that we can call it out and say, wait a minute, you can't just call something natural. You have to actually have some support behind what you're doing. Like, cotton is natural fabric. That's great. But how is it being produced, and how many chemicals went into that production, and what are the employees and the laborers how are they being treated? And, we've got so many other things to take into account. It's not just about the environmental naturalness of something. Everything's natural. The world is only made up of natural things. So it's just how we combine them together is where things become problematic. Yeah.
The sad thing is that companies are still trying to find an easy way out. That the problem greenwashing has even come up is terribly sad. Instead of putting the focus onto actually making a change, we're putting the focus onto lying to everyone and pretend that we are making a change, which is ridiculous. There's companies that pump money into greenwashing rather than putting an effort into getting their products to be created sustainably. So yeah, we're not there yet.
The almighty dollar is really what is driving things. And I think that that's where things need to shift focus. We need to move away from profit being the only reason that we're doing things.
That's a saying that I like. If peace was profitable, we would have it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very sad.
On that happy note, I want to say thank you so much for talking with me today. It's been a really interesting conversation, and I really look forward to talking to you more and seeing more of your work in the future. You do amazing work, and I think it's really important work too.
Thank you, Bridget. That's very sweet of you. Thanks for having me and thinking of me in your series.
Yeah,
it's an honor.
It's great to have all the varieties of conversations and hear about different work people are doing around the world.
Thanks for doing that. That's also part of being a part of the change. It's creating change by talking to people and getting people to listen.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I'm doing this. Wow. I just loved talking with Janine. It was such an inspiring time. We could have talked for probably another 2 hours. We had lots to talk about and lots in common. And it was just a real pleasure to have a conversation with her, to find out some of her process, some of her inspiration, and her Jane Goodall story is just amazing. I can't wait to see more of her work. If you want to see her work, you can see it on Instagram. She's under janine.heschl, and I'll put the links to that in the show notes. You can also find her online at her website at textilewildlifearts.com. If you like what you're hearing from the show, don't forget to like and follow and share it with your friends. I really appreciate any support. And I've been really appreciating the comments that you have been sending me. I've been getting some great emails supporting the podcast, and I really appreciate hearing that. If you know of people that you want me to interview that you think would be a good story, please drop me a line. I'd love to hear about it. If you're interested in a community that engages with sustainability in quilting and textiles, you can join the Learning Hub at bridgetoflaherty.com. There you will find memberships, online courses, supplies, and resources for sustainability and my textile art. You can also book me to speak with or teach your group. You can find me on social media at The Sustainable Quilter. Don't forget to comment, like, and share, and to follow me on your favorite podcast app so you won't miss an episode. Thanks for joining me, and I'm so excited to share this journey with you. Until next time, happy stitching.